Welcome to CMOs Without Borders. I'm Joel Crampton. I help financial advisors, RIAs, and wealth managers replace scattered marketing with strategic systems that boost AUM and production volume.
I'm Mandy McPhee. I am a fractional chief marketing officer and work with founders who are doing too much and need someone to turn their scattered marketing into a system that actually drives results.
Welcome to another episode of CMOs Without Borders. Today's guest is Tracy Jepson. She is a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I love that term. Her main business focus is business coaching, strategic growth consulting, workshop facilitation, speaking engagement. She's a Profit First certified master. You might have heard about Profit First from the book. She's also a Business Made Simple certified coach. She's also a podcast host with Small Business Big Deal. And in her free time, she also runs a scuba school, swimming school, wellness studio, was a Dave Ramsey coach. So without further ado, Tracy, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit more beyond what I mentioned?
Yeah, thanks, Joel and Mandy. I am so excited to join you guys today on your podcast. So yes, I am a business advisor and strategic coach for service-based businesses. I work with a lot of financial advisors. I work with a lot of insurance brokers, real estate agents, physicians, that kind of thing. So anybody who is in the professional services industry is who I work with to help owners get out of their own way and get out of their businesses. So everyone needs to exit their business at some point, whether they are going to sell it, leave it, vacation, or unfortunately, when we morbidly pass away, we need an exit plan for the company. And so I help founders get to the point where they can step away from their business and yet it still makes them money. So I have been in this business for 11 years, started out as a side hustle with a Craigslist ad, and it has turned into an international firm. And I really, really love helping owners really get out of their own way and making sure that they're running incredibly profitable service-based companies.
Yeah, exit planning, I think it's a pretty big deal, especially when it comes to financial advisors. And we're starting to see a lot of those advisors retire and try to figure out what they want to do with their business, whether it's merging with a larger firm, selling the book of business while staying on board and continuing to receive some sort of revenue stream. So exit planning certainly is really huge. Have you looked into the SEPA designation? I know that's becoming pretty popular.
I've looked at it. I definitely have looked at it. I use a framework. It's called Value Builder. It's John Warlow's book, Built to Sell, and it's very similar to the SEPA certification. So they're very similar. They just look at exit strategy a little bit differently. But it is right now is the largest shift in wealth transfer from business owners in the entire existence of our country. And firms right now are going at very, very high dollar. And so there's a lot of VCs out picking up firms. They are being absorbed. People are retiring. Books are selling. But unfortunately, owners are selling for pennies on the dollar because they were never actually prepared to sell. So much of it really, like you said, is really transferring books of business. It's not really transferring a company. Right now, so many advisors have made jobs for themselves, but they haven't built businesses. And that is a huge difference when it goes to selling and exiting of the value and the sale price that you can actually get.
Tracy, what advice do you have for founders? I think that when a founder starts to build their own business, they're just thinking about what's the income for me, not down the road as in how am I going to exit, how am I going to sell this. Some are up for sale pretty quickly, but others, they're not thinking beyond the, hey, how do I make money with this? What advice do you give them at that point?
Yeah, I kind of like to ask the question of, can your business make money without you in it? And if it can't, it's a job. And if it can, it's a company. There's a huge difference than the founder sitting in the sales chair, the one who's bringing in the leads, the one who's doing everything. If that founder can't make money while they are on vacation, if they can't bring in new clients and create new sales, they have created themselves a job instead of a business. And that, at the end of the day, is going to make a huge impact on what their exit gets to look like. And it's so interesting because financial advisors are helping other people plan their futures, but yet, it's the shoemaker and their little shoeless children running around everywhere. We're not looking necessarily at what does this take for this company to exceed that person. And so really looking at it, like your company is your largest wealth building asset that you have. And when founders and advisors start looking at it like that, the same way they would look at their clients' assets, we have to protect that egg and we have to make sure that it can continue to the point where we need it in retirement and from an exit.
Yeah, and for those founders who haven't read the Profit First book, it's by Mike McCalloway. It's a great book. I've looked into it as I've become an owner of my own business and in the entrepreneur role where I've created a job for myself. But ideally, I would like to create a business that I can scale and eventually go on vacation maybe sometime in the next 3 years. I think it's focusing on the building the business, not working in the business, focusing on the profit and how do you scale up and get out of the weeds of the business. And make it actual profitable. So maybe you could sell in the future, but at the very least, get yourself out of the day-to-day, focus on the things that only you can do to grow the business. And so it's not necessarily you have to be there, but you're just one part of the business.
Yeah, and being able to focus on the thing that you love the most. So again, some advisors love the planning. Some advisors love the sales. They like the leads. Like it kind of just depends on like where you want to be in your company. You don't have to, as a founder, be in a specific role. Like you can do the thing that you love the most and bring in other team members.
And that's the case in the beginning when they're starting out their business. They're 24/7. They're doing everything from marketing to ops to the technology build or whatever they're trying to build. So they're the all-in-one person. But there comes a time when that's no longer sustainable. And you have to hand over the pieces that you just don't love, doesn't excite you during the day, and frankly, you don't have enough experience in to do. You have to hand it over to people that you trust. And at some point in your business, there's a time where you have to do that to continue the growth of your organization.
Please tell us why it's so hard for founders of these financial services companies, financial advisors, to let go of the marketing piece, because I think that's one area that they just hold on to with dear life and just cannot seem to let go.
And I don't even know if it's that they can't let it go. I don't think they know what they are letting go. I don't think they truly know what marketing in their company means. So yes, they want new clients. They understand lead generation. Like they understand they need leads, but they don't necessarily know the best way to go about them. And if your algorithm on Instagram or TikTok or anything is like mine, it is all of these companies saying, you can have $1,000 in leads come in this month. Like, give me a break. That is not realistic. Like we're bombarded with all of these quick fixes. And the reason that people don't stick with them is because marketing, as you know, takes a long time. Like there is an engine that has to get built and put in place in order for sustainable marketing to actually bring in good leads, the leads that we want to have. And people have such an instant gratification problem these days. I mean, because we can get anything on our phone. Like I can get Amazon delivered same day to me. I can get anything. If I'm start a marketing campaign and I start to put out a Facebook ad or a Google ad or any type of ad, I'm not going to get a lead the same day. If you do, great. Like that would be a real surprise in my book, but like it's just not going to happen. And so many people don't want to give up marketing because they think it's expensive. They think it's, not fast enough, that it's not working. And they don't understand that marketing is a slow burn. It is like dating or relationships or anything else. Like you have to build a really solid foundation and you have to wait. So people give up on it, which is why I think they don't outsource it and they don't want to give it up essentially, but it's because they've had bad experiences. They've expected this quick return and they didn't get it. And so they've given up on it.
There's so much in there to unpack, but I just want to make another comment on top of that. I also think that from a founder perspective, marketing is very personal to them. They started the company, they built their own brand, they chose their own colors, they chose their own logo. And everything is so close to the heart that it's hard for them to let go because they've done all that. A lot of the times what I'm seeing is they built it to their own personal brand, to what they think makes sense, but marketing starts after that point. You've got the vision. How do we execute that vision to a specific niche, a specific client that they are looking to target?
And I'm hoping that maybe you guys can give a really great answer to this, because I feel like I'm not a marketer, but this is something I say all the time to people, is that marketing and branding are very different. Like your brand, your logo is very different than what your marketing plan is. Like just because your brand is one thing, your marketing is not the same as your brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the time when it's a solo advisor, the company is the person, is that advisor. They are the brand of the company. That's who people are doing business with. But once they scale beyond that, they start adding additional advisors, then the company itself becomes more the brand. I got into a conversation with somebody on LinkedIn today that you kind of have to balance those things, that you want to develop each advisor's personal brand because they're the ones that the clients have personal relationships with. They don't have a relationship with Joel Wealth Management. They have a personal relationship with Joel. And so when you have multiple advisors, then you have to balance each of those advisors almost as its own business. And because there's all of those emotional associations that clients have with that particular advisor. And then you're also trying to build up the overall brand of the firm. So you want to also make sure that you're building out marketing campaigns for both. And so there's branding for the business, there's branding for the advisor, and they all have to kind of work together.
Yeah, to that point, Joel, I think that branding is part of marketing, Tracy. It's a small sliver of marketing. So when you think about marketing overall, you've got branding, you've got advertising, which are the sexier parts of marketing that everybody sees, everybody has a comment on, and everybody has an opinion on. But then you've got the other foundational elements like building out who your niche client is, building out your strategy behind that. How are you going to find the white space in your competitive market? What can you say differently? And building out the systems that will allow the company to scale with those marketing tactics in place. So, yeah, you've got branding, advertising, your Facebook, social media, which are all the things that people see up front, those tactics that they see. But in the background, there is so much foundational work required to get those systems working effectively together.
Yeah. And I think also when new advisors start their firms, that they think that niching down in advisory is a bad idea when it's actually the best possible thing that they can do. I mean, I've got a
100%.
client, he works with only founders of franchises. That is who he advises for wealth advisory. But people think that if they're talking that, that they can help anyone. And while that might be true, if you're going to help everyone, you can't talk to everyone or you're talking to nobody. So being able to really decide who it is that you want to work with. I know my financial advisor, he works with, people in very specific incomes, very specific types of like family makeup. Like he has a very particular niche of who he works with. And I think people want business so desperately that they'll take it from anywhere, even if it's not good. And so the other reason that they don't want to market is because then they're going to have to actually talk about who they're talking to and really pick a target market when maybe they don't know or maybe they don't understand. And I would just encourage people to go through their list of clients and sort of rank them. 1 to however many that you have, if we call it 20, like 1 to 20, look at those top 20%. Who are they? What makes them up? What are their demographics? Where do they live? Or, what are their jobs? Are they W-2 employees? Are they founders of businesses? Like, who are you actually working with and who do you enjoy? So it's not only who are your customers, but which one of those now 20% do you actually like the best when their name hits your inbox? Who lights you up? Like, what makes you excited to work with that particular individual or couple or family or, legacy planning, that sort of thing. But the more that an advisor can niche down, the earlier, the better, because you're going to spend less money on marketing and you're going to have more success because you're directing exactly who it is that you're targeting and that you want to talk to.
Yeah, niche down to scale up.
Well, the riches are in the niches was what they say.
Yeah.
And you can be successful as an advisory firm in a generalist capacity. There's tons of firms out there that don't have a niche and are very successful. It's not to say that you have to have a niche to be successful as an advisor, but it makes it, from a marketing perspective, simpler and easier for your messaging. And then it also helps that potential client better relate to you because they feel like you understand exactly their situation. So I think I agree exactly with what you're saying, Tracy, is find something that you're passionate about and
Yeah.
then connect with people in those communities. And that just makes you stand out more as the expert, and you can connect with them better with your shared stories. People are looking for shared stories and a community to build. And so the more that you're like them, the more likely they are to do business with you.
And I think people worry about niching a little bit too because they think that that means that they have to turn away business.
Yeah.
So just because I work with a lot of like financial advisors and, agents and that, that sort of thing, I have really unique clients. I have a client that's a tour operator in Italy. Like I have a client who owns a couple of farm stores in Western Kansas. Like it doesn't mean that just because I have a niche doesn't mean I can't work with other people and that other people still aren't attracted to my messaging. It just means that when I'm talking about things in a particular area, especially on LinkedIn, like my message is going to sound the same every single time I say it. It doesn't mean I turn away business because if somebody comes to me and they're qualified to work with the firm that I'm going to, it doesn't mean that I'm only going to say yes to those people. Those are just the people I know I have repeatable, consistent, success with.
Yeah, you jumped right to the punch there. I was going to say the exact same thing, Tracy. Great minds think alike, right? That,
Absolutely.
from a tech perspective, I target my niche is fintech, but that doesn't mean that only fintech founders come to me. I've worked with ed tech. I have a research tech company. I've got not for profit as well. So it's not just when I'm targeting out in the market and niching down to fintech, I'm also attracting other types of companies as well.
Yeah, I'm the same way. So when people see my marketing, the content I post on LinkedIn, it's particularly geared towards financial advisors. But that's because I'm taking my own medicine. I'm eating what I'm cooking, and because that's what we tell clients, like you have to niche down. And if you're not a practicer of that advice, then you come off as a little insincere. But it also, I do have the same worries that I think advisors do is when you're niching down. And so my messaging is certainly focused on financial advisors, but like you, Mandy and Tracy, you are able to service multiple different types of industries, different types of clients. So it can be scary. And I certainly feel that pain as well in my own business. It's definitely not a limiter. And like you were saying, Mandy, people reach out to me all the time and say, I know you only work with financial advisors, but can you potentially help me? And that's like, okay, absolutely. A lot of what you do from a marketing standpoint is pretty consistent across all industries, especially in the B2B world or anything that's high value, professional services, anything that creates a lot of trust building, this long sales cycle, that kind of thing. A lot of the same tactics and strategies, technologies, all that can be very applicable to a wide variety of potential
Yeah,
clients.
from a services perspective, everything's applicable, whether it's technology service, financial services, telephone services. It's all pretty similar from a marketing perspective. Where I won't go is like CPG, consumer packaged goods. Cannot do that. Wouldn't even try it, right? But I have friends that will do that and can absolutely refer anyone coming to us. We have a wide network of CMO friends that we refer to as well.
Yeah. And so let's switch the topic a little bit. So Tracy, I know you're a coach to a lot of the people that Mandy and I help out in the financial services world. Tell us a little bit more when it comes to marketing. So you're coaching them in all sections of their business, all the different aspects of them with the profit first mentality, certainly. But when it comes to marketing, we talked a little bit earlier about taking that off of their plate and the emotional component that they have attached to that when it comes to their own personal brand. But what's some of the advice that you offer to those founders that you're working with, particularly financial advisors, anybody in that financial services space, when it comes to marketing, what they should and shouldn't be doing, and then also how you actually make sure that that gets implemented, because you don't do the implementation. The founder probably is not doing the implementation. So what does that whole process look like?
Yeah, when I start to work with someone, we're going through the 8 drivers that support and sustain a company, especially towards an exit. And customer experience and marketing is obviously one of those drivers. And so making sure that they do have an actual marketing plan and they're not just spending dollars on Google ads and don't have a real strategy. Most of the folks that I work with don't have in-house marketing teams. And so they are outsourcing them, poking a lot at numbers, right? Like my connection to those companies is not emotional. Mine is strictly looking from a numbers perspective. And so when I see a marketing number and kind of see the percentage of revenue that it's taking up, like, do they have somebody who, one, like you said, is actually implementing this for them, or are they set to do it themselves? Because I will tell you that advisors are not going to do it themselves. They have way more important things. Once you hand that off, like somebody else should just be taking care of this. But is that marketing person that they're working with, do they have metrics that they are actually basing these things on? Do they have KPIs that they are attempting to hit? Because when we just see dollars going out the door and I don't see revenue going up, or I don't see a change in what's happening, again, I'm not emotionally tied to this, but I definitely want to see profitability coming back out of the company. So that way we need to make sure that marketing is not an expense, that it's truly an investment, that it truly is driving the revenue coming back in, the AUM coming back into the firm. And if it's not, then we have to start asking questions. But again, I understand also that marketing is not going to be an instant fix. Like it's not going to start working necessarily in week 1, month 2. There's got to be A/B testing and changes. Like marketing doesn't just happen overnight. It's definitely a long-term plan, and they have to be budgeting for that and planning for that. But when it does start working, they need to have a plan in place for that too. So what happens when we get in 20 new clients in that month or 30 new clients? Do you need to bring on, another advisor? Do you need to bring on a paraplanner? Do you need to bring on someone else? And then we're looking at the numbers of going, okay, if we bring in XYZ clients, what is it going to take to operate the business? And so are looking at it from a perspective of what does growth internally look like? What systems do we need to start adding to the processes? Because like everything, processes come first, systems come second, systems support processes and not the other way around. And so like how many seats do we need to be adding to the particular systems that they've got, and what does that actually cost? And then once we have that sort of goal number of what our costs are, we know what has to come back from the marketing. We know what the ROI has to look like. And if I'm getting $2 for every $1 that I'm spending in marketing, I'm going to do that all day long, right? Like we want them to spend as much in marketing as possible, as long as it makes sense and as long as it's profitable. And we know what growth has to look like on the other side of it. It can't just be grow to grow. You have to grow to have a goal of what exactly it is that you want to do. And I think it's also important that people need to understand that if they don't want to scale their firm and they don't want to have 10 advisors and they don't want to have, this full team of people, that is okay too. Like there could be marketing strategy, and you guys can talk to this about just awareness, like just letting people know that the company exists. Like not all campaigns are to bring in leads. Like some campaigns might simply be, hey, we're just trying to get our name out there. We're just trying to be recognized in the community for customer service or community service or something of that nature. As I'm looking at their financials, is what was the goal of the campaign that they were doing? Is it just brand awareness, or are these really, butts in the seats kind of lead generation?
Tracy, you talked a little bit about getting a founder over the hump of understanding that marketing is not a quick fix. How do you get them over that hump? What do you say to them? How do you change their mind?
Yes, just like we would do anything else, especially from a profit first cash flow perspective. If we know that they want to bring in leads and they don't know if they can afford it, for one, because again, I tell them like, this is not going to be, you can't just throw like $1,500 at something and go, oh, I'm all of a sudden going to bring in $30,000 of AUM. Like it's just not going to work that way. So we open up an account for them and we start funding it. Just the same amount of money that we would fund anything else that we were going to add new, whether it was a new person or anything else, and say, okay, does $5,000 a month, does $4,000 a month, $10,000 a month feel okay to fund this 6-month, 8-month, 9-month marketing plan, knowing that it's not going to bring anything in? Like they have to save for this. This can't just be something that we hope and pray on. We do it strategically, just like we would add any other expense to the business. And then all of a sudden, 3 months in, we're like, yes, $10,000 feels very sustainable every month to put towards marketing, knowing that there's going to be an ROI. And then all of a sudden we've sat and done that for 3 months. We have $30,000 on hand, but the cash flow also works for the business. So we know that we're not just adding something that could be painful and that we're crossing our fingers and hoping that it works. We know that cash will sustain this. It will feel okay. We're not giving anything up in order to do this. And we've got, a war chest that can be put towards this if we need to put a little more gas on the fire at some point. So just like, anything else, is letting them know, like, let's just test the cash theory. Like, does it feel okay? And if it doesn't, then maybe they're not ready, or they need to scale back and start with something a little bit smaller. Again, as not a marketer, I know there are different levels of, funds that people can put towards plans for something like that, or working with someone like you, or talking about what they can actually afford and what would make sense at that level.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Get them to let go of the cash first, and then they can invest it appropriately. And talking about investing in marketing, we've talked to you at the beginning. You talked a little bit about marketing as an expense. Where do you see marketing? Do you see it as an expense?
Sometimes I see it an expense on people's P&Ls, but I don't see it as an expense. No, I definitely think of marketing as an investment in a business, just like I would think of anyone like myself, an advisor or a coach. Like, if you're going to bring an outsourced item into your business, there has to be return. Like, you have to be getting more out of it than what you're putting into it. And so from a marketing perspective, again, as long as you know what the goal of it is, and that there's a true goal and that there's a true implementation, because the last thing I want to see is somebody do is go spend a whole bunch of money on a new website. This is the big one that I see all the time. Like, oh, we need a new website. Well, what do you need a new website for? Are people actually getting to it? How are they finding you? Like, what is the purpose of spending $10,000 on a website if you have no plan to get somebody to hit it? That I would think of as an expense rather than an investment. Now, if you tell me I need to spend $10,000 on a website, and here's how we're going to get people here, and here's how we're going to use it for the firm, and it's going to do some other things for us, 100% I see that as an investment into, again, their image, their brand, their growth, that sort of thing. But you don't need a gorgeous website to have an incredible company. But you do, if you're going to have a gorgeous website, you better have a darn good plan of a way to get eyes on those pages and see how long they're staying on them. Why, what is the improvement going to be for that website? I know firms that, have hundreds of millions of dollars in AUM, and they have the junkiest website I have ever seen. And they are incredible advisors, but all of their clients come from referrals. Right? Like, they don't have this mass marketing plan that's out there, but that is the way that they're getting people in. So again, your fancy website's not necessarily the answer. Sometimes that can be an expense. I just want you to have a plan to get eyes on whatever it is that you're doing, something that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that a lot of great points in there, Tracy. I would challenge you that a website or a specific tactic becomes an expense. I think that when you look at individual tactics, yes, they can become an expense if you're doing tactics in a silo. But your website, along with your Facebook organic and your paid advertising, all comes together as a single system, and that's what creates that investment, not the individual siloed tactics that you're doing. So doing a website alone, yeah, probably an expense, but once you put all of the tactics together into an integrated program, it becomes a system that you can then build on, and that's where it moves from expense to investment.
And also, like, how do you want your client to feel? Like, if you want them to feel from moment one, from the way that they see you to the way that they're going to be greeted by your reception team, by the way you're going to be greeted by your advisor, and the way that the plan is going to come to you, and how your investments and those ongoing annual communications or monthly communications, whatever you're getting from your advisor, like, it should all feel the same. So this client that has great AUM, they have a wonderful firm, they're hugely profitable, but I will tell you, it feels very, like, the experience, the overall experience for those clients feels very disconnected from the outside, because what they're showing is definitely not what they do. And I do think that that cohesive brand, that feeling of what you get in the office and what you get outside of the office, are largely important for, from a marketing perspective. And someone like yourselves can be able to create that whole package of what that looks and feels like, because you don't want it to feel different from your website versus how you would walk into an office. Like, are you going to have like half painted walls, or are you going to have, kind of wallpaper over here and it not match anything else? Like, that would just feel so disconnected. And that's kind of what that website feels like when everything else about the experience is so elevated.
So true. I talk about that in my new book, and I talk about message cohesion. And message cohesion is so important. And it's not just cohesion of what's on your website. It's how does it lend to the customer experience? How does sales contribute to that message cohesion? How does marketing contribute to that message cohesion? Even how the founder and what they're going out and saying, ensuring that that all comes together really nicely.
So since we're out here plugging books, my book also talks about a little bit of what you were talking about, Tracy, is the client journey. So mapping out the entire process that the client goes through from beginning to end, figuring out what kind of digital impressions that they're faced with, whether it's your website or your social media platform, the content you post on there, your email campaigns, when they walk in the front door, when they pick up the phone and call your office. What does that entire journey map look like? What kind of impressions do they have? Again, to your point, how does the client feel when they're interacting with your brand? So that's something I certainly go through with each of the clients that I work with. And I want to circle back to something you were saying, you guys have all been talking about, is investing in marketing. There's good investments and there's bad investments. And so a lot of times when you're working with a firm, you may not necessarily know what marketing tactic is going to work for your particular firm. So I think firm owners should understand that there's going to be some trial and error that takes place from a marketing standpoint. You're going to have to test a few things and see what works. And it's not necessarily kind of throwing things against the wall and hoping something sticks. There's strategy behind it. So there's an intentionality around why you're doing that particular tactic. You have an idea of what the outcome is going to be, whether it's impressions, awareness, maybe it is to drive leads or AUM, but some sort of ROI. And if after giving it a fair shot, whether that's a month or 2 months or 3 months, you're not getting an ROI, you're able to pivot and go into another area of marketing. So I think that's also something you should be aware of. So it's okay to try things and fail. I think we call those learning experiences. Just because something works for one firm doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So again, those are things that I think advisors should be aware of.
Test and learn. It's so important, isn't it, Joel? You got to test and learn and evolve the program based on what you've learned.
And Tracy, you mentioned it very well. I mean, marketing is a marathon, and that's kind of the message that I try to reiterate quite often. Is it's going to take time to get some of these going. It's an engine. You have to point the ship in a different direction. So it's like a big tanker ship. Like, it takes a little bit of time, but once you've got some momentum going, you've got your hard charging towards a goal. Now there's lots of quick wins that you can try to find during that marathon. So lots of stages. Like, let's get really good at something. Let's find some quick wins so that the advisor isn't just blindly investing a bunch of money with marketing with an outcome 6 months or 9 months or 12 months down the road. Mandy, you probably do the same thing. Like, let's find some quick win campaigns, some quick cash campaigns, or things that we can maybe mine the current database of prospects and find some quick wins that we can apply some strategies pretty quickly to. And then we can build up that momentum, not only working with us as your fractional marketing leaders, but in the business, inject some new blood, some new energy into the business. And again, just refresh it, get some things moving, build up that momentum. And then as we're bringing on new strategies and tactics, the whole brand feels a little bit more alive. And I think another point I was going to make was good marketing not only attracts clients, but it also attracts new advisory staff, new advisors. And so if you're doing fun new marketing things, that's going to attract the type of people that want to be with that kind of firm that has that kind of energy. And I think that's where you start getting into best of class companies and you get on those best advisor firm lists.
I do have a question for both of you, though. So I'm going to turn the tables. I know this is not my podcast, but I'm going to ask you guys a question. So from a perspective of mine, so accounting, a coach, somebody who's looking at straight numbers, I'm here questioning my client. What are you spending? What are what are you getting? What are you actually investing in? Is there anything that is just, if I see it as an advisor to a firm, bad marketing, something that we know doesn't work anymore, something that's outdated? Is there something top of your list that you're like, people shouldn't be doing this? Is there anything like that?
That's a really good question. I think that it really depends on the organization. There are some organizations where I would say, absolutely do not do that. But then there are other organizations that I might say, yeah, that'll work. I think one of the biggest hurdles, I would say, not necessarily bad marketing, but a big hurdle to get over right now is for fintech and financial services is using finfluencers. It's a very hard to measure tactic, and there is so much regulation around financial services, advisory services, that finfluencers can walk that narrow line very quickly and cross over to advice without even knowing it, with the regulations that are in place right now. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's bad marketing. It is very risky marketing.
Yeah, I've got a couple. One would be don't chase virality. Don't try to go viral with your post.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just the algorithms will do whatever the algorithms do. Definitely lead with great content. And if that gets picked up by the algorithms, fantastic. But at the very least, you're providing good content, good value to people. If that, like I said, if that goes viral, fantastic. More power to us. But you can almost never create a viral post just unless you're Wendy's. Like you just
Yeah.
can't, do it. So that'd be one thing I would discourage heavily, and that's more of a tactic or kind of an overall strategy or mindset. Another one that I see a lot of advisors have really been burned is paying for leads. If you pay for leads, it's almost like speed to dial. If you don't have an auto dial and a team of people to follow up on these leads, that lead is going to get hit by a ton of other advisors who are chasing that same lead. I know there's a lot of lead vendors out there that say, oh, it's going to be exclusive if you pay a bunch more. I don't know if that's actually the case, but you're also running into the case where a lot of those potential clients, they're not even expecting to get a phone call, and then they're getting hit by 8 different advisors, and they're not even in the market to shop for a new advisor. They just signed up for a forum, and then all of a sudden they're getting hit. And so just right off the bat, that's a bad experience. So those are probably 2 things that I would say as an advisor, you should just shy away from.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with the don't lead with virality.
Yeah.
Joel, I had a founder once ask me, how can I do that ad? And it was the extra gum ad. I don't know if you remember it, the extra gum ad before, as COVID was coming out, as we were coming out of the COVID era. And Extra released an ad with Celine Dion and people running together and kissing for the first time and all of that. And I had a founder ask me, I want that. I want that viral ad. But what they don't realize is that that viral ad came with a huge strategy behind it. They understood the cultural times. They understood their audience. They understood what was happening. They had a good strategic brand in place. The foundation to build that virality was already there. And that's what supports a viral video or something like that. It's not going viral with the intent of going viral. It's doing the strategy and the hard work behind it to become viral eventually.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, and I think going viral for the wrong reason would also be the would be the thing that you don't want in that whole thing.
Yeah.
That's right. Especially
absolutely.
in our industry, you have to build that trust, right?
Yes.
You don't want to go viral and break trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
One more question. You're what I would call a serial entrepreneur.
Yep.
Tracy has several successful businesses that she's opened over time. We do have an audience of founders, and both in the fintech financial services area. what advice would you give them as they are building their and scaling their businesses?
Yeah. So step one, document your processes. Even if you are the only person working in your business, you have to start documenting every single thing that you do, because the second that you want to bring someone on, the biggest hurdle for that first hire is I don't have time to train someone. And all that means is that you are too busy working in the business to be working on the business. So if you are documenting how you take phone calls, how you respond to emails, the simplest thing in your business, you may think nothing of it, but if it comes to your brain and if it's something you're doing on a daily basis, document how you do it. So then that way you can get a system in place to either repeat it for you or a human to repeat it for you. It's going to help you with training, but it's going to help those startups in that hurdle of those first couple of hires, because that is always the pushback is I don't have time to train someone. I'm too busy. But if you take the time, and it feels so silly when you are doing it at first, but documenting literally every single thing that you do, how do we respond to a customer that's unhappy? How do we respond to somebody that is happy? If X happens, what is Y? And document everything, because then when you bring on, likely that first person is probably going to be an assistant. Maybe it's somebody who's producing something in the background for you, that kind of thing. You have to be able to give them something that can help train them, that doesn't just consume all of your time. But yeah, that would be the number one thing that I would tell people is document all of your processes from day one. And if it's not day one and it's day 3000, start at that day. Like, you can't go wrong with documenting everything that you do.
Love that.
Tango is my favorite. So if you use Chrome, I'm a Chrome user. If you use Chrome, Tango is a free plugin.
Okay.
And what it does is you can record your desktop or anything that you're doing in Chrome, and it will record everything, and then it will give you the step-by-step instruction of how you did it. All you have to do is go back in and edit. So it gets every mouse click, everything that you do, and it makes documenting processes so, so simple. You can leave it on, every day. And as you're going through things and doing them, all of a sudden now your processes get documented. But I really mean it. Like, how do we respond to clients that, are angry over email? How do we answer phone calls? Like, every little thing should be documented. And again, I understand the level of crazy that it feels. But if you don't do it from the start, you will never be able to slow down to do it. And it will create such pain when you start bringing people into your offices. Again, even if you're not scaling, 30, 40, 50 people, even 4 people, start documenting it now. Like, it's worth every bit of time that you could be doing.
I like the idea of Tango as it relates to the research that we do on ChatGPT, et cetera, right? Because it's so hard to track the prompts that we use, what we've gone through, our thought process, because using chat isn't as easy as just saying, give me competitive research.
Right.
It's an iterative process, right? So what does that process look like as we go through it? That's an interesting way to do it.
But yeah, Tango's a great, like I said, and it's free. I love free.
Yeah, I love
Free's
free
great
too.
for startups.
Yeah.
Free. Yeah. And I've also had some good success doing Loom videos. Yeah. So those are good for documentation of processes.
And then what I tell you is, like, once you get so say you document everything, you get somebody on first, like you bring in your assistant, they need to re-record all of the videos that you have. So great that you were able to do it, but now can they still do it? And can they teach it to someone else? Like, you kind of just create these iterations of, okay, because, software updates, things change. We kind of forget to go back, but making sure that whoever's doing that watches the video. And if anything's different, like that they're going in and updating that process.
Yeah, that's great.
It will be the best use of your time that you'll hate yourself for.
All right. So we're coming up on our time here. Tracy, appreciate you being on the podcast. Can you leave us with a few nuggets of wisdom that you share with the financial advisors, the people in the financial services space that are potentially listening to this podcast?
Simplicity is okay. Like, everything doesn't have to be complicated. Your marketing strategy doesn't have to be complicated. Things can work really, really well that are simple. And in fact, most people are looking for things that are simple these days. I think we're so overwhelmed with social media and technology and ChatGPT and like all of these AI tools and everything. Human is good. And human connection is what people are craving right now. And you don't have to have all of these AI agents answering calls and scheduling meetings and doing all of these things. Like, that human simple connection is still viral, right? Like, we still want that. We still need that connection. And I think as long as advisors are focusing on that from all aspects, whether it's their internal teams or anything else, like just remember that that human simple connection is still really, really marketable. And they don't need to go get super fancy and spend all of this money on tech and all of these things. Like people just need connection. And that connection can come with really incredible profitability. It can come with people referring firms and that sort of thing. Like, so I think just people not forgetting that human connection in things. And, people might be searching the internet or ChatGPT or AI for financial advice. But at the end of the day, I just refuse to believe that that human connection is going to go away. And I think that people are always going to want it. And I think that we're actually craving it more as humans right now, more than ever, because there is so much automation and we just don't know what to believe. So being that trusted advisor, being that human voice that they can sit down with, meet in person, and connect over something that's very real for them, which is their finances and their future, like that's never going away. I think being human is a really sexy thing to be in business right now, and keeping things simple is really important.
It's been great talking about how people can connect with you. I assume you're still looking to work with new clients.
I am always looking for new clients to work with, places to speak, workshops to facilitate. People can find me at tracyjepson.com or on Instagram, Tracy L. Jepson. That is probably the place I hang out, or on LinkedIn. And if we are not connected, definitely connect with me on there. That's probably my favorite social media place to live. But I appreciate both of you for letting me join you. I am excited to read both of your books. Joel, I have yours bookmarked. I'm ready to dive in. And I do know I'm actually excited about it too, because I know it's not just for financial advisors. I know that really you can replace that with any sort of service-based business. The advice will still connect and work. So diving into that will be great. But I just appreciate both of you for the opportunity to join you and your audience.
Tracy, thank you so much for being on the show. I think what I learned was keep it simple, keep it human. I think those are great mottos for all of us to follow. So again, Tracy, thanks for being on our show with us. Mandy, it's always great as well, hosting with you. So until next time, this is CMOs Without Borders, and have a great week.